Good morning. Welcome back to the Red Mic. Happy Thursday. Glad you're here. No idea why, but my brain has been either a day ahead or a day behind. I think I got it figured out now that the week is finally over. Welcome back to Red Mic Messages. Red Mic Messages, of course, are leadership and life lessons picked from 25 years as a public servant, 16 years as a youth football coach and scouting volunteer, and 10 years as a mediocre athlete with far more heart than actual physical ability. Today's Red Mic Message is going to talk about athletics, and we're going to talk about the bright line that exists. The Brendan Sorsby story. It's not really about Brendan Sorsby. It's about what happens when a society becomes more interested in exceptions than standards. Sorsby admitted placing sports bets involving Indiana football while he was the quarterback at Indiana. Nobody disputes that. The argument was never about whether he did it. The argument was about whether it should matter. The NCAA said it should. Texas Tech, well, they put their guns up and they said it shouldn't. The Big 12 got involved. Lawyers got involved. The courts got involved. The Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton got involved. Now, he actually had a good reason, but anyway. Boosters got involved. Everybody picked a side. Then, after all of that fighting, Sorsby announced he was leaving Texas Tech and entering the NFL supplemental draft. He never played it down for the Red Raiders. I don't think that ending is really what's fascinating, though. It's what people argued about, because for generations, sports had certain bright lines. You don't bet on games involving your team. You don't intentionally lose. You don't fix outcomes. You don't compromise the integrity of the competition. Those rules aren't complicated. They weren't always convenient, but they were clear. But today we seem to treat so many standards as negotiable. Consequences are unfair. Punishment is excessive. Rules deserve an exception. Every exception deserves another exception. And eventually the discussion stops being about what happened and becomes about whether standards should exist at all. They should. And we've watched this happen throughout college football. The transfer portal basically became free agency. NIL turned into bidding wars. Coaches sign long-term contracts and then leave a year later with their big buyout. Players announce commitments and then change schools before the ink dries. Universities preach loyalty, but then they shop for conference memberships and championships. They talk about tradition. They act transactionally, though. But then we wonder why fans feel disconnected from the sport that they loved. People can tolerate change, but what they struggle to tolerate is inconsistency. They struggle when everybody's expected to honor commitments except the people making them. They struggle when every rule applies until somebody talented enough, valuable enough, or connected enough comes along. At some point, every institution has to answer this question: what are the rules that still matter? Not every rule deserves defending. Some really should change. Some should disappear. But standards exist because the entire system depends on them. Trust is one of those standards. Trust is the product. Without trust, the scoreboard becomes theater, and then you have people questioning, like they do the NFL, saying, oh, well, it's rigged. Without trust, outcome becomes content. Without trust, the game stops being competition and is just entertainment. I am less interested in perfect rules and more interested in clear ones, because clear rules create trust. Clear rules create accountability. Clear rules create confidence. And confidence, it's almost impossible to rebuild once it's lost. A bright line isn't tested when everybody agrees with it. It's tested when somebody talented, valuable, popular, or useful crosses it. And that's when you find out whether it was a standard or merely a suggestion. Now, back to the Ken Paxton thing. I do understand why he intervened. I don't think it really had anything to do with Texas Tech at all, or even football. It came down to a judge made a ruling that was applicable and enforceable in Texas, and then the NCAA and Big 12 said, Yeah, well, we don't care about that ruling. General Paxton's job is to defend the law in Texas. I think that's what he was actually doing. My gut tells me that, he's not some, you know, Texas Tech, ride or die guy. I think he was just trying to defend the court's outcome, the court case. But we'd have to ask him about that. So back to today's red mic message. Families need standards. Businesses need standards. Teams need standards. Communities need standards. And the strongest organizations aren't the ones with the most rules. They're the ones with a few clear principles that everybody understands and everybody follows. Because when exceptions become acceptable, standards eventually become optional. And if standards are optional, then why are we doing any of this? We have to be able to look at it and say, no, that is a hard and fast rule. If you break that one, you're out on your keister. That means you too, Pete Rose. And I know that some people disagree with me, but no, he knew what the rules were. He broke them. Anyway, that's today's Red Mike message. Hope you found it interesting or helpful. If you disagree with me, and I suspect some of you might, let me know in the comments. Let's have a discussion, shall we? I love you guys. I'll see you again tomorrow. Hashtag Fun Friday. I'm going to talk about Juneteenth. I'm going to address honestly, why it matters, and address some reasons that maybe you don't know about. Some things that maybe attack some of the conventions of why it's a holiday. Anyway, I'll see you again tomorrow. Until next time, don't forget, life is short. Drink the bourbon.